Everybody has a story. You have a story. Your story, your life matters to you, and it matters immensely to God. Nobody gets the story they want. Part of owning your story means coming to grips with the raw materials of it and acknowledging them. And in particular, the raw material of giftedness and of character. Now, we live in a world where everybody wants to be gifted. And that means I want to be talented, I want to be smart, I want to be attractive, I want to be athletic, I want to be successful, I want to be wealthy. Giftedness is not a bad thing. That's part of why it's called gifts. Gift is good. But Dallas Willard would often talk about how it's a great burden to be gifted and not have the character to bear it. Samson is perhaps the poster boy of this in the New Testament. And the reason, he says, is that giftedness has a way of tending to make me focus on me. And it's a very bad foundation for identity. And I know what it's like to be caught up in this, to feel like I want to be known or thought of, or think of myself as somebody who is gifted. I want to think of myself as more smart than I really am, but then it's painful there's somebody else that's smarter. I want to think about myself as somebody who's more athletic than I am, but then there's other people that are way more athletic. I want to think of myself as somebody who's musical, but there's other people that are far more gifted when it comes to music. And giftedness becomes this kind of ego-centered gravitational pull. And very often, people who, for whatever reason, are not as wrapped up in the sense of themselves as being gifted are liberated or free to enjoy the giftedness of other people. So I'll tell you right now, the takeaway from today is for you today to look at and enjoy the giftedness of others, particularly people you know, particularly who might be gifted in a way that you think that you're gifted, that could gnaw at you a little bit, and enjoy their intelligence or their athleticism or their family or their attractiveness or whatever it is. Because the alternative, when giftedness outstrips character, is ruin. And that brings me to today's story. This is from Richard Lisher's book, Our Hearts Are Restless. And you might know the names. Lots of us are probably kind of vague on the story of Abelard and Heloise. So just listen. Today is story time. Once upon a time, in a millennium not our own, Peter Abelard was born in 1079, I think. A scholar prince and his brilliant student ventured dangerously near the sun. In a fiery embrace, they plunged like falling stars to the earth. He is the most prominent teacher among the philosophers of Paris. He was the most brilliant of his siblings. His father was fairly wealthy. He had that going for him too. But he left the military career of his father to go into teaching because he was so smart. She's the most learned woman in the Kingdom of France. She is 22 years his junior, beautiful, remarkable in her defiance of the social restraints that governed women of her era. Their torrid love affair is the scandal of Paris and soon the talk of all Europe. They are the rock stars of the 12th century. The price of their love is their ruin. Their fall is their radiance. Their loss will raise a question: is tragedy possible for a Christian? The man is a dark-eyed Breton named Peter Abelard. The woman is Parisian, known only as Heloise. He will write a memoir about his fall in the form of a letter to an unnamed, possibly fictional friend. If Augustine's reasons for writing were complex and theological, we talked about his confessions in an earlier video, Abelard seemed mundane in comparison. He writes to assure his reader that in light of his own mistreatment, his friend's problems are little or nothing in comparison. Unlike the Confessions, Abelard's story is not a voyage of discovery, but a shipwreck of pride, lust, danger, and loss. A misery memoir so unprecedented in the annals of Christianity, the one historian has written, there is nothing else like it either in form or content. He writes, Lisher goes on to say, primarily to salvage his name and his reputation as one who is gifted. He will call his memoir the story of his misfortunes. Interesting. Not his mistakes, not his sins, his misfortunes. Ruin has many causes, takes many forms. We're most accustomed to thinking of it in financial and moral terms. The investor or brokerage firm that made foolish, greedy choices is wiped out. Elderly couple who squandered their life savings on a Ponzi scheme is left destitute. A revered evangelist is found with a prostitute. A respected politician betrays his office. A star athlete is caught doping. Almost always hear, gifted, 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 I gotta be more. Such ruin brings with it feelings of guilt. Worse than that is shame, the public face of guilt. In Christian thought, ruin is just one modality of life reduced to low ebb. We are no longer in the realm of restless as we were with Augustine. Ruin is a metaphor that evokes a great temple that lies in ruins. And story, with its relentless mechanics of beginning, middle, and end, creates its own impetus to completion and its own therapy of hope. The origins of the New Testament lie in such a story, that of the passion of Jesus, that moves from despair to hope. That story, more than any other, has shaped subsequent narratives of decline, fall, and survival. Now, for Abelard, the decline is his pride and lust. He diagnoses his own flaw, Lisher writes, with classic precision. He becomes bored with himself and launches from academic combat to the field of sexual conquest. With Heloise, who is much younger than him, beautiful, very bright, he says, I was confident I would have success with her, that I could bed her because I had youth, I had exceptional good looks. No kidding. He writes of himself, I had exceptional good looks. There's obviously no Instagram back then, so who knows? And then my great reputation would bring me success with her. And they embark on a love affair, breaking vows. They betray her uncle, Fulbert, who's a canon in the church, in deep ways, and that leads to their fall. Enraged by Abelard's duplicity and the injury to his own honor, Fulbert has him castrated. The story is well known and lacking in finer points. Abelard tells it simply and without sentiment in two brutally factual sentences. One night, Fulbert's men creep into Abelard's room, and before he is fully awake, crush, slash, remove his testicles. The deed produces a terrible symmetry. They cut off the parts of my body whereby I had committed the wrong of which they complained. He later writes, the story of my misfortunes, but there is in it, Lisher says, remarkably little learning or self-examination like is seen in Augustine. Heloise reads this and writes to him 7 letters that Lisher says are the most famous exchange of letters in the history of Western civilization. And then he goes on to write this about the two of them. It is clear by now that Abelard and Heloise modeled 2 distinct responses to ruin. Of the many possibilities, 2 stand out: reinvention and redemption. Of more recent coinage, reinvention is the new self-administered redemption. It chooses among many options. There may be an artistic redo of a ruined life or career so that something of its promise shows through. It might be a pragmatic strategy for survival or success. 30 years ago, when one presidential candidate accused his opponent of reinventing himself, it was not taken as a compliment. Today, reinvention, with its sheer chutzpah and unlimited possibilities, seems to have risen in value, while the language of redemption, the deep requirements associated with it, such as repentance and forgiveness, have gone the way of cliché. Abelard, Lisher says, reinvented himself, but Heloise was redeemed. Her life remained broken, disappointed, tragic in many respects, unresolved, and yet there was a humility and a tenacious clinging to love that somehow broke through all of the pain and the humiliation. She was kind to Abelard in his old age, And when he died, she asked for his body and had it carefully buried. Her body was buried next to his. They were dug up and reburied 6 different times, it kind of mirroring the churn of their aliveness. One of the great features of any story is the relationship, the great ratio, it might be called, between giftedness and character. So today, surrender the giftedness. It's like, I have no control over what gifts were or were not given to me. God is not going to ask me, why weren't you more gifted? Then giftedness by its nature is so comparative. It's always, am I not just smart, but smarter than other people? There would be no gifted group if everybody was in it. To rejoice in the gifts that God has given to others and to accept my own with gratitude. And then to ask somebody else today, what do you see in my character? How might my character grow? And when I experience those moments of twinge discontent or envy or pride or lust in the desire for what belongs to somebody else, to surrender it to God today. God, would you help me today to surrender my giftedness and to grow my character? That's what makes a story great. And if you go through ruin, and you may, many do, to remember it's not the end of the story, and it can be the beginning of a better story. Not a story of self-reinvention, but a story of redemption, which may one day be a story of resurrection.
Hey, if you enjoyed that video, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any future teachings from John Ortberg here at Become New. My name's Tim, and I'm a part of the team here. This series is all about stories. Everybody has a story, and everybody's story matters. And we want to know about your story, whether it's a story of coming to faith or a story of spiritual growth. Whatever it is, we're here for you. You can email that to us at connect@becomenew.com, or you can text it to us. You can also sign up for daily reminders whenever we drop a new video via text by texting the word BECOME to the number 855-888-0444. You can also send us prayer requests there. There's a team of us that meet to pray each weekday for viewers just like yourself. If you'd like to receive the emails that go along with each video, be sure to check that out at becomenew.com/subscribe. More than a video to watch, this is really a community to belong to, and we're so glad that you're a part of it. We'll catch you next time.